We are introduced into 1973, to the researcher Constance. Her and Ezekiel were in the wilderness taking photos of spider webs to research. Ezekiel discussed about inhabitants and possibilities of special abilities, and Constance said that these spiders were mythical. Suddenly, she feels pain in her stomach which she believes is her baby, since she is pregnant, but she didn't rest because of knowing that she was closer to getting the spider. Ezekiel tells her to take a break, but she refused, stating there is no time, and thanked Ezekiel for the umbrella he had gave her. Then, Ezekiel went back to the shelter to look for more info. Constance showed up with a jar of spiders. Ezekiel forcefully demanded on having the jar. He snatches it by shooting her. He ran away. Then the inhabitants came and tried helping Constance by bringing her to their place. They let a small spider bite her for healing, where she gave birth. The man states that the child will have problems in the future. Now in 2003, 30 years later, we see that child Cassandra Webb, called by as Cassie. We see that she is actually a paramedic, and we see her friend and co-worker Ben Parker. They are taking a woman to the hospital for treatment. We see Maddie Franklin in front of the ambulance, skateboarding, and she flips off Cassie. The doctor states to them, the patient will be okay. We see a little boy whose mom was actually the patient. As a thank you, he gave them a piece of paper for helping his mom. She suggests that Ben should take it, but he declines. He states that she should. We see Julia Cornwall, the stepdaughter of the patient, was there to check on her mom. During lunch break, Cassie was thinking about where to take the child's paper, because they don't like discussing family-related things, but Ben now states he might start a family and also adopt a dog, since he met someone, and Cassie states that this relation looks serious and the woman was lucky. Cassie goes home, she checks what the child gave her, and puts it alongside her other memories of her own family. Later the next day, Cassie and Ben help a man who got into an accident near the side of the bridge. Ben pulls him out, but Cassie gets trapped in the car, and it falls into the water. Underwater she wakes up seeing webs and like the letter S. She hears some voices, and then all of a sudden, wakes up as Ben saved her life. He runs her through tests, and she sees the future of her result percentage.
Time. 79 over 55. You need a real workup.
Seriously, Ben, dial it back. I'm fine.
You need to get your oxygen levels.
Again?
What are you talking about?
O2 is 89.
Oh, you're right.
Then, being confused, she states she is fine, and wants to go home. Now we see Ezekiel at a palace and takes a woman to a private room, where they bang. Him being asleep, he dreams of 3 women, and gets killed, being kicked out a window. He wakes up panicked, down in shock, and the woman asks him if he had a nightmare. Ezekiel states that he sees this vision every day. He also states that the National Agency of Security was on the lookout for him. The woman tried to arrest him, but he stops her from her weapon. He kills her by poisoning her and getting information, and kills her. Cassie goes to the gender reveal of Ben's sister-in-law, which is Mary. Outside she talks with Ben and his friends and family for a little bit. Inside, she meets Mary Parker. Then with other women they play a game to guess the name of Mary's baby, but she gets confused as she again sees the future, and Cassie is shocked because Mary tells her again to guess the name of the baby, but she already answered. Everyone is just confused. Then Ben calls her because there was a fire. Cassie tells him that she was having deja vu. Ben and Cassie go to the fire scene to help, and she sees what will happen there, and including what would happen to her other co-worker. Cassie tells him what she saw and wanted to drive, but he just ignores this and declines. All of a sudden the vehicle crashes just as what she saw in the vision, and while crying tries to revive him, but he is no more. We see Ezekiel talk to assistant Maria to find the women in his vision. Maria shows him photos that possibly match his vision. He states that they are teens now, but in the future, in 10 years, they will become adults. He tells her to find the 3 women and gives a promise to give her a reward for her work. Cassie had her eyes checked out and they were normal. She asked the doctor about the visions she has, but the doctor just ignores this by stating that the impact is just that, of trauma. Cassie doesn't believe it's just trauma, since the visions come true, but the doctor shows her test results being normal and gives a suggestion to rest and watch movies. She decides to do this, and Ben calls her, leaving a voicemail.
Hey Cass, it's me again. Ben. O'Neill's funeral starts at 2, the last place you want to be. But it would help Susan if you came. I mean, it might help you too. Cassie? Cass?
She gets up to microwave popcorn, when all of a sudden, a pigeon crashed, then it disappeared. She had a realization that she was seeing the future again. Ezekiel's assistant Maria saw Cassie and Julia walking separately and informed Ezekiel. Cassie gets on a train.
New York City's a whole new level of crazy these days.
And has a vision that Ezekiel would search them to hurt the three women on the train.
New York City's a whole new level of crazy these days.
Gradually, everything started to unfold. Worried, Cassie tells them to get off the train. Ezekiel came to find them. Cassie sees him now. She has a vision of the police, in the way they were going to run. Julia then screams, claiming that Cassie was trying to kidnap them, and Cassie points to the direction of where Ezekiel was crawling, and how he would kill them. She goes on a different train, then Cassie sees him on top. They run, but now Cassie is about to get arrested. All of a sudden, Ezekiel goes after the police. Cassie was not fully arrested. They run. All of them are shocked, sitting inside of a taxi, the taxi Cassie steals from someone. They all introduce themselves to each other. Cassie states that their own parents will take care of them, but the three say that they are busy and out of town. Cassie was happy to hear on the radio that a person was in the search for all of the mess that happened, for causing trouble at the terminal. Cassie's expression changes, as she finds out they are describing her for being the three teens' kidnapper. They have a realization that only they see the man, Ezekiel, on the ceiling and coming after them. Julia states this is the case of her being on the search, due to her screaming on how Cassie was the kidnapper, and Cassie says that she didn't kidnap, and saved their lives, and throws Maddie's phone out, when she tries calling her uncle. We see Ezekiel still in search for them and calls his assistant, talking about how the group knew he was coming for them. He tells Maria to be faster than the police to search for the group. They hide in the forest now. Cassie explains how she never saw the man. Julia has a realization that Cassie was the paramedic, who saved her stepmom. And Anya knew Cassie from living in the same building, since Cassie didn't collect junk mail. Cassie states that Maddie had flipped her off one day. Cassie explains how she could see the future. Maddie doesn't believe this. Throwing a rock, she says that she can't control the visions. Cassie says she will be back in a few hours, and not to move from there. Once home, she takes the license plate off the vehicle and reads her mother's journal. Then she tries to stick to the wall like the man she saw, but that doesn't work. She finds out that the tribe can see the future, and discovers a photo with the man being with her mom, and how it resembles the man from the train, which being is Ezekiel. Maddie gives a suggestion to ignore Cassie's saying, by going to the diner, to get some food. Julia doesn't agree, stating how they were told not to go away. Anna said they didn't have any money anyway, but Maddie replies saying she does. But Anya also disagrees, stating just because she had money, doesn't automatically mean to do whatever she wants to do. Later on, they finally all agreed to go to eat at the diner, half a mile away. Maddie saw Julia smiling and looking at the men behind them. We see that Ezekiel leaves to the diner, as his assistant called him to inform she found the three women, since someone called the police to inform them that he saw the three women kidnapped from the terminal, in the Daily Bugle newspaper. Cassie goes to look for them, but didn't find them in the same spot. She finds them dancing on a table at the diner with the men. They ran away, and Ezekiel then kills Cassie, but it was just a vision. Now rushing, she got into the vehicle. The group was at the table and she arrives crashing her car into the diner, saving the three before they could get in the car. Ezekiel grabs her leg, but Cassie kicks him out and drove off with the three, which were shocked and quiet now. Julia says she is sorry. Ezekiel is still on the search for the group. He calls his assistant. She tells him that her name is Cassandra Webb, the person that is taking away the three women. He was familiar with the last name. Cassie takes them to a hotel-type room, and Cassie tells them the next day, she will drop them to their parents, so they can take care of them and figure it out. They each tell their truth. Maddie and Julia talk about their relations with their parents. Anya explains how she is undocumented and doesn't want to be deported, and her parents not being in America. Cassie decides to go to the diner, and was in shock when Ezekiel tells her that the girls in the later future will kill him, and get powers. All of a sudden Cassie wakes up, since it was her vision but in a dream. In the early morning, Cassie wakes them up, and reveals that the man has a paralysis poison that would kill them by stopping the heart and body. Then she teaches the three on how to do CPR. After this she shows a photo of her mom and the man, being Ezekiel, and saying how they were after them. Anya asked Cassie if her mother knew him, and she replies that she might have. Maddie then states all of this is happening because of Cassie, but she states that she only knew that her mom liked to study spiders, since they were in the journal. Cassie leaves because she wants to know more about what is happening, and before going tells Ben to take care of the three, and doesn't really tell him a lot, and says she will come back within a week. She keeps scanning through her mom's journal book on the bus. When she got to the forest, all of a sudden Santiago came behind her. Cassie was interested. He states her mom went to get healing from the types of spider present there, and how Ezekiel lied to her and was selfish, and stole the spiders, and Ezekiel being cursed. He took her to the place where her mom died and where she was born. Cassie wondered why her mother put her life on the line to get the spider. Santiago tells the truth. that her mom feared about the future of Cassie. Cassie saw the past of her mom, being pushed under the water, and her being diagnosed with myasthenia gravis before her birth, and the reason her mom went to the forest was to have healing for her. She hugs her mom, but she disappeared. Cassie had a realization that she was wrong about her mom, and how she cared and loved her. Santiago states that sometimes sacrifices have to be present for loved ones. Cassie made a connection with her mother, and her past was a reason to be there, and says she needed to learn more about herself. Cassie says she needs to stop Ezekiel from getting to the three girls. Santiago states that she, once masters her powers and learns it well, can be in multiple places at once, and can change the future. He also states the line,
"You take on the responsibility. Great power will come."
Ezekiel is mad still, because he hasn't found the three, and yells at his assistant for not being able to find them, and will not spare her by killing if she doesn't find them. We see the three, watching a movie, and Mary walks and is about to go into labor. Ben rushes to the hospital with all of them, and Maria spots them through a camera on the computer, and she tells Ezekiel. Cassie goes to their home, and then decides to look inside using the window and sees no one. Then has a vision of the future, of an attack, so Cassie steals the ambulance, which was called because of the labor, but they still rush to the hospital since it would have taken a long time. Cassie sees Ezekiel and collides the ambulance. She tells Ben to take his sister-in-law Mary to the nearby hospital fast. The group leaves. Cassie tells Anya to use a device and charge it towards the top of the ambulance to Ezekiel, and he gets electrocuted. So they were temporarily safe, but then the ambulance broke down now. Cassie has a vision on what will happen, so she makes a plan, and calls dispatch using the ambulance to get a helicopter, and they run. They use fireworks to have it be in the way of Ezekiel, which worked. The group ran to the helicopter, but Cassie sees the future in her vision, and the helicopter explodes now. Cassie remembers what Santiago had said to her, to have her powers in multiple places at once. Ezekiel hits her, but she succeeds and saves Maddie, Julia, and Anya from falling down. Ezekiel goes after Cassie, letters breaks from the Pepsi sign, and Ezekiel dies due to being stuck and getting hit hard by the sign. Cassie falls into the water, and we see the letter S from the sign, and her eyesight gets damaged due to the firework. Julia rescues her and the three do CPR to help Cassie. And they save her life. We see that Mary gave birth, and see Cassie was in the hospital now. Now at her home, Julie brought food and Anya asks Cassie, now Madam Webb, if she can see their future, and she says that her eyesight was better and how they were stronger and not people who gave up in the future. Though they didn't know what exactly will happen in the future, they still understood that the impact would be powerful of what she saw in the vision. In conclusion, being selfish and doing bad will do a person no good, as karma will come back anyway, as what happened to Ezekiel. And Cassie, now Madam Webb finds out her mom went to the forest to get healing properties, and died for her as she misunderstood, her entire life, and in the future Julia, Anya, and Maddie will be powerful.